Hi everyone. Tonight I am packing to get ready to go to what's I'm told is going to be a huge alien con honoring ancient aliens, and I'm being told that 20,000 people between tomorrow night and Sunday could go through the Pasadena Convention Center in California, where I and my colleagues from the last 11 years of Ancient Aliens will be there to do autographs, to do pictures, to do panels, and I am going to be doing my artificial intelligence presentation that I recently did at Contact, and I've had huge response to it from the audience there. So I look forward to hearing from those of you who might be in the audience tonight who are going to Contact. If you can come and hear the artificial intelligence presentation that I'm going to do, I believe it's on Friday, that I would love your feedback on it, because I think it is one of the truly most important issues facing humanity, and my title reflects my concern. AI, is it an existential threat to human survival? So I will be doing that, and I'm going to be going to the booth, the Earthfiles Linda Moulton Howe booth. It is number 627, booth 627 at the Pasadena Convention Center. And there, my dear friends who make this YouTube channel on Wednesdays possible, Lori and Michael Moriarty, they will be there handling the books and the DVDs, and I will be going there as much as I can to autograph and shake your hand and talk and answer some questions face to face. They've got us scheduled a lot, so I don't know how often, but just go to that booth, 627, and Lori and Michael will be there, and I'll try to get there as often as I can. And while this is going on, and there are this few dozen of us getting ready to go to Pasadena to interface with this wonderful audience and the History Channel and Prometheus that have made Ancient Aliens possible for this is the 11th season, so in the 11th year. Out in our solar system, about 8 minutes by light speed to Mars, there is one of the biggest, perhaps will end up being the largest, dust storms ever seen from Earth on Mars. And if you go to my website, earthfiles.com, I have put up a headline that shows a photograph. These are like a montage in which NASA and JPL put across what Opportunity would have seen. Opportunity was in the Endeavour crater in the southern hemisphere, where summer should be coming to Mars now, and with summer has often come these big dust storms, but this one is really something. And when you go to earthfiles.com, you will see how this would have approached the Opportunity Endeavour crater. And it starts out like normal sun, and it goes all the way across to sheer dark, scary blackness. The rover has been in total darkness for some time, and now it's becoming serious because its energy system is way down. So the whole robot rover has had to shut itself down to its internal clock, and now scientists are wondering, will this dear, persistent, strong, vital robot, will it survive this terrible storm? To give you an idea of how fast the energy system has dropped down for Opportunity, on June 2nd, it had 645 watt hours of energy. And by June 10th, 8 days later, it was down to 22 watt hours. That is so low that Opportunity could turn off everything but its internal clock, trying to stay alive, so to speak, as a machine that needs energy. And John Callis, who is on the, he's the project manager for the Opportunity Project, knows everything there is to know about this dear robot. And he said, quote, "We are all concerned. This team has a very strong bond with the rover. We have a very tight emotional connection with it. It's like if you have a loved one in a coma in the hospital and the doctors are telling you that you've just got to give it time and it'll wake up. All the vital signs are at least good now. It's just waiting it out." So this is something, keep going to earthfiles.com. I'm going to continue to do updates on this because I personally have done interviews with some of the people who made this rover, and it is the one that has survived past Spirit, and it is doing absolutely amazing work on Mars that we need done so badly. So fingers crossed, this rover is going to survive this 14 million square mile dust storm. It's huge. Now, going from the solar system and dropping back to Earth, remember it's 8 minutes by light, and then let's drop back over to Oregon. Remember earlier this spring, in March and April, I was getting emails from people who were saying that something had happened to the birds, especially the hummingbirds. And as time went on, now we're at June 13th tonight, I had a sense that maybe some of the things were coming back to normal. But today I received this email. I live in Brookings, Oregon, on the southern Oregon coast. Last year and years before, I've had so many hummingbird feeders that to keep them full, I had to make a gallon of food every other day. Not kidding. And this year of 2018, I've only seen 2 hummingbirds. She says also missing are pine siskins. They're a North American finch. They're just an adorable little bird. It's pine and then Siskins. Look it up in Google. They're beautiful, adorable birds. She says, my husband built a bird cage with chicken wire around it so that these beautiful little pine siskins could go in and out freely and safely. And she said, there were so many, and they were so friendly last year, and they would land on our arms and in our hair. And this year of 2018, I have seen roughly only 10 of them. Starlings seem to be more populous, but what could be happening to these pine siskins? Even the different varieties of sparrows are missing. Plus, I've only seen 1 or 2 goldfinches. Something is definitely not right. Have you got any other news from other people? And that would be my first question to all of you tonight who are listening. If you have in your community, whether it's Oregon or any other state in the United States or province in Canada or beyond the Northern Hemisphere, if you are aware that birds are missing or that something is changing, I am beginning to feel that something is amiss. I mean, truly, because this has been a long time. And if it is amiss, we're not being told by agencies. So it's you, it's all of you reaching somebody who is a reporter like me, and that we can keep digging into this, and I can keep trying to do reports and do the YouTube channel, ask for help in reports from wherever there might truly be something that some of you think is really, really strange or amiss, like that email. Now, I had another one just 2 days ago. This is from a man on South Beach, Oregon. He says, hummingbirds conspicuously absent. 4 feeders I have, usually very well attended. All of the Anna hummingbirds left in April, and no Rufuses have yet arrived. And that would be early for the Rufus season. But these are from people who are used to a cycle, and in Oregon, and it's remarkable how many people are still writing that things are amiss as we'll be at the summer solstice next week. Here is another June 11th email. Hello, Linda. After I read your article about the disappearing hummers, I asked a Facebook friend in Issaquah, Washington, east of Seattle, if she noticed a lack of hummers up there. She said there are more hummers at her feeders now than previously, but there aren't many flowers in her yard. And she does not know, is it because of drought or temperature? She said a friend of hers from Bend, Oregon, said she has not seen any hummers all year. Very unusual. And they don't know. Everybody is saying, is it because there is drought or fire season? We're beginning to have fires in New Mexico. There's been a prediction that there's going to be fires. But if it isn't burning now, why would the hummers and other birds be missing? And this email goes on. Our weather here in the Eugene area has been relatively normal, although we did wind up with 50%, one half of the snowpack we are used to getting in the Cascades. And I have noticed that the Willamette River across the road from where I live was extremely low this winter, lower than the summertime flow. The river levels have to be maintained at a minimum flow to keep salmon and steelhead happy. Our local reservoirs are almost full now. In past years, the Corps of Engineers would drain the reservoirs down during winter to avoid flooding. But after these recent drought years, the Corps seems more cautious about levels getting too low. I'll let you know if I see any hummers. Close quote. Then, here is a June 7th email. We live in western North Carolina, so we're jumping out of Oregon to North Carolina. We're 40 minutes from the Blue Ridge Mountains, 1 hour from Brown Mountain. We had bought a house and 20 acres of prime timber from a tree company. 18 years later, all of the prime trees are now dead, and some kind of weird trees are growing in their place. We have noticed in the last 5 to 10 years the complete absence of bees, birds, and insects like we used to see. Always on May and June, the ticks were out. Within the last 5 years, I haven't had to put anything on the dogs for tick control or even flea control. There are only a few fireflies, no June bugs, no natural insects. We used to grow a beautiful garden, and now nothing seems to be able to grow. Around noon, the plants begin to wither from the sun, and our creek has foam on it. The jets that fly over us are heavily spraying. And she says the last 3 to 5 years, we have not had any real severe weather right here in North Carolina. But a few weeks ago, the dogs brought home a coyote pup. How they got it away from the den is a real mystery. We also used to have minnows, frogs, and crabs in our creek, and now there are none. Also, we used to have a military airport in Asheville, North Carolina. One morning, I had gone down to the pasture to feed the horses, and they had bent the gate, trying to get away from something. I walked out in the pasture, and I found a crop circle, just a circle. At that time, I figured it was from the military, but now I'm not so sure. Something is happening to our planet. This Cherokee Indian tribe is very close to us, and they have had an article recently in the local news about how angry they think Mother Earth is, and I believe them. And then, going back to May 31st, and I won't go back any further, I have others. Here is an email from Salem, Oregon, so back from North Carolina to Oregon. We have about 6 bird feeders in our backyard that are usually nonstop. This year, Instead of filling the feeders up on a steady basis, we've only filled them one time. There have been a few blue jays, a couple of robins and ravens. Missing are all of the different smaller migratory birds and woodpeckers, and no hummingbirds either. Here in Salem, Oregon, we are in a water crisis, as the Detroit Lake has a toxic algae. So we are being told not to drink our tap water until advised. I don't know if algae is the issue with the lack of birds this year, but the birds have vanished here. Anyone else in the Salem, Oregon area notice this as well? So I'm putting that out to all of you, that from the dust storm on Mars to people, a lot of people, reporting that nature around them is far different now than it was only last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they're asking me what could be behind all of this. We know we're in global warming. We know that in the West we are in serious drought again. And drought with fires could be a problem, but this started in the early spring, where people were noticing the missing animals and birds. So this is definitely something to try to keep track of. And in your area, if you are noticing, whether it's animals, birds, plants, lack of insects, any kind of fundamental change, email me at my news email. It's the only one I use. It's earthfiles@earthfiles.com. Think of a reporter who files news about the Earth. So it's the same word, earthfiles@earthfiles.com. Now, in that same area of the world, Oregon, I'm now switching up just a little bit northwest into Washington State and Whidbey Island. If you go to my news website, earthfiles.com, that I have been doing since 1999, and in the search bar, type in Whidbey Island. It's W-H-I, D as in dog, B as in boy, E-Y, Whidbey Island. So many high strangeness things happen on Whidbey Island, from animal mutilations to Sasquatch to UFOs. Well, something occurred Sunday, June 10th. And I am going to, tonight, before I pack and leave tomorrow, I'm going to put up at Earthfiles so that everybody can see this, because I really think that this is so strange and the implications are so bizarre that for those of you out there who might be in the Northwest, who knows what rumor or scuttlebutt or something that you might hear that might be helpful, or you already know something about this. I am going to read from a Fox television report that I received. It's bylined Whidbey Island, Washington. And it says that Greg Johnson of Skunk Bay Weather was, so he's a weather reporter man, he was looking through the photographs snapped by a weather camera on the Kitsap, K-I-T-S-A-P, Kitsap Peninsula on Sunday at 3:56 a.m. I'm speaking on Wednesday night, the 13th, so we're going back 13, 12, 11, and to the 10th, Sunday, June 10th, about 4 hours after midnight. And this image that Greg Johnson of Skunk Bay Weather found is a high quality, high res, 20-second exposure camera, and there were more than one image. And what it shows is a bright white to yellow to orange. When you see the wide shot, it looks like a big streak in the early morning sky over Whidbey Island. And news, Fox and everybody, when they started getting phone calls and he called, they thought, well, maybe it's a missile. launched from the Naval Air Station on Whidbey Island. But what they learn is when they call the Whidbey Naval Air Station, a spokesman there named Tom Mills tells them it couldn't be a missile launch from their facility because there are no missile launch facilities on the Navy base at Whidbey Island in Washington. And they said, here is from this Mills, this spokesman, there's a lot of speculation around here too. The Navy workers want to know what they saw, but it is definitely not a missile launch. Okay, now jump to a professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Washington. His name is Cliff Mass. He posted the photos also on a blog that he does just 2 days ago, and asking, what could this be? And he says, as an atmospheric physicist, quote, it really does look like an ascending missile, close quote, but it can't be in terms of any public knowledge about any military operation or any other facility that could launch such a large-looking missile. So we got the phenomena. It's on high-res photo by a weather person, and there is no explanation in Whidbey Island for any publicly known site that could have launched such a missile. This man from the Atmospheric Sciences Department at the University of Washington, Cliff Mass, he says, quote, I've seen a lot of stuff in my work, but nothing like this. So I'm going to post the photos at Earthfiles with some of these details, and hopefully we can start getting some answers. If there are whistleblowers out there that have firsthand information about what in the world launched this past Sunday morning at 3:56 a.m. Pacific that looks forevermore like a missile launch, and there's no known ability to launch such a thing, and this is not small. These are really clear, amazing photos. So hopefully some of you out there, maybe somebody will have an answer, or you can get in touch with me as a whistleblower. And if any of you want to get information to me at any time, whether you're military, intel, medicine, whatever field you're in, and you want it to be confidential, all you have to say in the first line is, Linda, this is confidential. I can't have my name, my title, my location released, but I want you to know, and then give me the information and give me as much evidentiary material as you possibly can about why what you're reporting is factual. And I will keep as best I can, using journalistic rules as best I can on all of these difficult subjects, where we're always challenged by being able to get the actual documents, actual photos, actual videos, multiple eyewitnesses. You all can help me so much. You are already. I just cannot thank you as an audience more for the valuable, invaluable emails that I have been getting from through this sharing with you on the Earthfiles YouTube channel. And with that in mind as a lead, and hoping that Lori and Michael are going to be able to cover me at this amazing Alien Con starting tomorrow night and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And we'll be back on the next Wednesday, and that's right before I go to Toronto. This is an amazing pace I'm on. I get back for a day and a half or so from Alien Con, and then I go to Toronto to speak there at their MUFON Cosmicon. It's a Alien Cosmicon. And in all of this swirl, I'm going to keep looking for emails that may have some guidance and direction on these subjects we've talked about tonight, and I'll keep, to the best of my ability, digging into them and reporting to you what I find, what I hear, hopefully from whistleblowers. And I'm so grateful that we have this Earthfiles YouTube channel to be, in a way, help be a reality check on a world that isn't always reporting some of this amazing phenomena. So with that, Lori, are there some questions?
Absolutely, and I would like to thank our awesome super chats first. Thank you, Christine, Jana, Vicky, and Carol Ann. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, please. Thank you, everybody. Every bit helps.
And our first question is, what's your opinion of Dan Burisch and J-Rod?
Very good and very interesting question. Back in what would have been probably the mid to the late 1980s, I was often in California with a man named Bill Hamilton. And Bill Hamilton was an investigator of all things UFO and high strangeness. He was well known. His day job, he had a day office job, but his love was investigating UFO stuff. And I remember one night, Bill took me out to Palmdale and the Northrop facility area, and there was a period of time, I believe it was the late 80s, where we could go out there, and did this several times, and the sky, you'd see red flash, white flash, white flash, then a whole bunch of rapid flashes, and then it would go on for as long as you wanted to be there. And you could hear people on one side of you saying, well, this is Northrop, this is our government, they're testing something because this is above Palmdale and Northrop. And then other people would say, no, I'm an engineer and I know that this is not, and all these arguments about a phenomenon that was repeatable in that part of the sky, and that Bill Hamilton insisted were some kind of communication with UFOs, meaning an alien presence. Out of that grew a kind of friendship in which Bill Hamilton called and talked to me about a man named Dan Burisch. Another man who was interacting with Dan Burisch was Ron Garner. I believe both of those men have now passed. I know that Ron Garner did a couple of years ago. God rest him wherever he is. I'm not certain about Bill Hamilton, but somebody told me recently they thought that he had passed. So I'm talking about the 80s, but it sets up to the question, when Bill Hamilton and Ron Garner and a few others insisted that this guy named Dan Burisch had worked at Area 51, had put on a space suit like astronauts put on with tubes of breathable air in order to walk down into a facility that was a spherical laboratory, and that inside was a gray extraterrestrial biological entity, and that Dan Burisch demonstrated and showed and described that he was trying to treat the extraterrestrial biological entity's neuropathy. Neuropathy is disease of the nerves through the body. And according to them, to these men, Dan Burisch would put a needle with some kind of medicine with the knowledge and the acceptance of the being telepathically He said he could feel, Dan Burisch said he could feel pain, horrible pain, searing pain, every time he put the needle in the gray being's arm, or wherever he put the needle. But that the being expressed gratitude, profound gratitude, that the humans were trying to help him. And the only source of that information goes back to Dan Burisch and the people that he talked to and then would relate it. We all need proof. Was Dan Burisch working in some kind of a capacity for a government agency? He said he worked for MJ12. A lot of people thought that that was just throwing out a word and had no meaning at that time. I don't know. I wish I did. I met and talked for hours with Dan Burisch, with the other researchers present sometimes. And I always had the same feeling, that I was hearing extraordinary details from a man who seemed as if he was speaking from personal experience. But when you said, do you have anything that could prove it? Do you have photographs? Did you ever take photographs of the being that you were helping with the neuropathy? Do you have anything that would tie to an actual being? If he did, I never saw it. If other people did, they haven't spoken. So Dan Burisch remains a true mystery, because eventually he declared bankruptcy. George Knapp in Las Vegas did a lot of journalism about how he didn't have credibility. The bankruptcy seemed to reflect somebody who was definitely not working for the government. Otherwise, he would have had a steady paycheck. Why was he declaring bankruptcy? There were all of these things came into a crash. And then after that, and the reporting of George Knapp and the public statements about the bankruptcy and a whole lot of other things, it's as if Dan Burisch kind of faded away into a historic twilight. As you asked me tonight, on June 13th, 2018, I have been exposed to so many more facets of government interaction with non-humans, scientists, the work they have been doing, things both medical as well as engineering, that I cannot just dismiss what I heard Dan Burisch say to me directly. It made me think, and one of the subjects that he discussed with me that made me think the most, he said, we are dealing with time travelers. He said it is because there have been lots of time travelers in our solar system, and that time travel and time travelers can create snarls. That was his word, not mine. Snarls. And he said, think of time moving and then it collides, and there's a lot of timelines, and pretty soon it's like this, and instead of everything being smooth, it's all snarled. And he said that one of the things that he understood, that the beings that he was trying to help with the neuropathy, they were trying to help Earth and humanity and the solar system by trying to untangle a snarl in time. I thought a lot about that. Are we on a planet? Are we in a system? Are we in a timeline that cycles and cycles and cycles over and over and over because something happened that wasn't supposed to happen and caused a snarl, and the snarl keeps us in a perpetual cycle in and out of catastrophes. So that's what I know about Dan Burisch. Another question.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to thank John Weininger for his very generous super chat, and I've got another couple questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Linda, where does Jesus fit in the overall with the Anunnaki, Thoth, and the other gods in history? In your opinion, was Yeshua and E.B. Ian, did he rise from the dead? Thanks, Rick.
Another really, really haunting question. And such a difficult one to honestly try to answer in this world where there is so much violence over religions. If I may, tonight I will share an extraordinary discussion that I had in Brazil in a place called Corguinho in February of 2002. I believe it was 2002. I had gotten a call from a businessman, had a large company. He said, I have a friend, operates and manages a small farm in Corguinho, but he has been seeing UFOs. He has been seeing tall blonde beings with blonde hair and beautiful blue eyes. We have seen small grays. There was a menagerie of interactions, different types of craft, all on this one same farm region. And there was a particular kind of bluff where the farm was here and the bluff was there, and there were all other farms around this rise in the land. And when I was there, because the businessman said, I would like to host you, pay for your travel, to come down here. I will provide the Portuguese translators. I would like to see what you could learn in an investigation about a lot of the phenomena. So I was there for 10 days. And in those 10 days, it was a working farm. The farmer had his father, his mother, all kinds of cousins. It was a family-run farm. And I was able to go around to the other farmers and talk with them. And every single farmer that I was able to work with through the Portuguese translator told me about seeing objects. They could be glowing lights, they could be craft coming out of this big mesa or bluff. They were not, there was no confusion. They said they're coming out of that bluff. And many saw lights come either out of the craft or from glowing lights up on top of the bluff, and then come swooping down into the farms. People would see lights moving around in their farms and then go back up into this bluff. And I was there especially because this is the case, and all of you can see, I've done I think it's a 6 or 7 in-depth part on the Urangier Oliveira, Corguinho, Brazil, my trip down there. And you can see all the photographs, everything. It's really, really a beautiful report going back to 2002. And he had experienced one night out of several nights of different times in his life of interacting with beings and craft. And this one particular one in that year of 2002 involved him remembering feeling at night that his body on just a very thin blue and white woven cotton To say sheet, we think of sheet with a very fine thread. This was coarse but soft. It was very, very gentle, and he called it a sheet. And he was lying on this blue and white 100% woven cotton thin blanket or sheet. And it was he didn't say it was orchid. In fact, it was between an orchid and a magenta. Remember, we got colors out. And in my mind, I remember it was between a magenta and an orchid, a very, very unusual color. And he opens his eyes to see this color, this beam, coming right down onto his body. And then he's rising. And he told me very, like in somebody describing walking across the street. He says, I'm rising in this beam. I can see the room. I can see the ceiling. I'm seeing the ceiling getting closer. And I don't know what's going to happen because I'm afraid I'm going to go right through the ceiling. And he did. And he is one of several people that I've heard this description. He said, Linda, it felt like thousands of feathers on my skin as I went through the ceiling. He kept going out into a craft. Well, what was left behind? His body was burned and scorched in the ceiling. So that's up. The body that was lying on the blue and white, all cotton, is a body scorched there too. And so he let me take wood samples. I didn't want to destroy anything. It was so incredible to see this body image in the wood. And I was able, with his permission, to get some of the wood carbon fragments. I was able to cut some of the part, with his permission, that was scorched. And I worked, when I got back, I worked with the textile company in Philadelphia. And interestingly, they found that the scorch was in the upper fibrils of the cotton. And now I'm going to parallel those words. In the upper fibrils of the cotton in Brazil with the farmer, like the upper fibrils of the Shroud of Turin that allegedly is Christ's body when light filled the cave and he was taken away. I have done a lot of interviews with scientists on the Shroud of Turin. I'm doing my own investigation in Brazil on the thin cotton blanket or sheet. And I hear those same words and wonder, what kind of frequency are we dealing with? Back in 2002, there was no discussion anywhere that I know of terahertz. That we would then find out later that terahertz was of a major importance in the UK, the DI-55 report to the Ministry of Defense in 2006 that involved a paragraph that said that Rendlesham Forest was an example of exposure to terahertz frequency radiation, and that it could manipulate human minds and damage human tissue. So would terahertz, I don't have an answer to this tonight, would terahertz leave scorching in the upper fibrils of linen in the Shroud of Turin, in cotton in Brazil? Would terahertz of a certain frequency put in a body, the shape of a body, in a wood ceiling like plywood? It was like a plywood ceiling with his body scorched in it. What is the technology? What is terahertz to advanced intelligences that we on Earth are just like babies learning to work with in many ways? Well, because I had already done a lot of research work on the Shroud of Turin, before I ever went to Brazil, that the image of the alleged Christ body on the linen, it kept hanging in my head as I was doing this work. And every night, the farmer, we had, I think on this particular night, there were 2 or 3 Portuguese translators. There were half a dozen of us. And it was getting close to when I was going to return to the United States. So that night, I think we stayed up way past midnight with Uringer here with a notebook, me next to him with a sketch pad and color pencils. So when he would say things, I'd ask if he would sketch. And the translators and 2 or 3 other people from the farm. And on that particular night, I asked him about Christ. And here's what he told me. This is Uringer Oliveira, Corguinho, Brazil. I think it's February 2002. He said that the tall blondes with the crystal blue eyes, very white skin, had come for him 5 times in his life up to then, and he was in his 40s when I visited. And he said, they showed me, like in a hologram, that Christ was a member of a science team. And they were very concerned about a knot, a snarl in time that kept this planet and this solar system going round and round in cycles of destruction, and they wanted to stop it. And they were from another part of the Milky Way galaxy. And the way the Portuguese translators said the next words, I wrote them. I still have my original notebooks from that discussion, in which they said, Uringer says that Christ was the lead scientist who went back in time so that 2,000 years in the future, from the time that he entered the Earth timeline that we would say was 2,000 years ago, that he did so with, and he named these people. He said the rest of the science team was John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mary the Mother, Anna of the Essenes, who led the Essenes, and that the Essenes were part of this science mission. And this is the sentence that I have never forgotten. I wrote it down, I remember vividly. The science team was like a cushion shot on a pool table. They came back in time, trying to change the minds, hearts, and souls of humanity at a point in time that would then change total catastrophe 2,000 years in the future. And that, to me, has been one of the most insightful descriptions of what the Avatar, Christ, and the people around him, what might truly have been happening on this planet 2,000 years ago in order to save Homo sapiens sapiens. You know, on that note, I think I would like to say good night and have Lori keep all your comments about your reaction to what I have just shared. That is sort of feeling like I'm sharing something really privately with you, and I know the audience is large, but I feel like I have opened up something that, even though I have written about it in Earthfiles, and you can go to Earthfiles and you can search put in the search bar Corguino, Corguin as in Nelly, H as in Harry, O, Corguino, and it should bring up all of the reports with all of the illustrations and the photographs on this amazing case in Brazil. And then pray for me that I can meet all my deadlines between now and when I get back next week. And then I will find out what all you are thinking in terms of what I just shared, and to share with Lori now, to send her comments on whether you think that what I was told by the Brazilian farmer, in your mind, growing up on planet Earth with a completely different perception of the avatars, do you think that what that farmer said to me that night over candlelight with those translators could be true? Love you. Good night.
Linda, could you please pick up the phone so we can chat?
Yeah.
And we are still on.
Oh, yeah, right.
We're still on air. However, your home base in Phoenix has lost internet connection, so we're gonna have you end the chat. So
the whole internet has gone down in Phoenix.
So unfortunately, Michael can't see you. Your viewers can still see you, so keep your smile on.
Wow.
And do you look at your monitor and do you see the red button on the square?
Camera.
Just look for click the red button that ends the live stream.
Well, for those of you who can see me, God bless. All right, I'm getting there. Okay. I'm clicking on camera. I'm clicking on the only red button. Is it doing anything?
I'm gonna go